Jake Walker had seen many strange things in the galaxy, but nothing confused him more than his own wife. Thyra was beautiful, tall, graceful, with silver skin that shimmered under starlight. Her glowing blue eyes could silence a room. She was a Zalari, an alien warrior from one of the oldest and most feared races. But despite all her strength and power, one thing was always missing between them. She never touched him. They had been married for 6 months. Not once had she kissed him, hugged him, or even held his hand. She didn't sleep beside him. She didn't speak more than a few words a day. She cooked meals, cleaned their small home on Outpost 19, and sometimes just sat outside staring at the stars. Cold, silent, distant. Jake had thought maybe it was their different cultures, or maybe she hated him. Maybe the marriage, arranged by the Intergalactic Peace Council after the war, was just a political tool. But he didn't ask. He tried to live quietly, respectfully. He told himself not to care, until the first body was found. It started when a young nurse at the medical center lightly brushed Jake's hand while giving him medicine. Her name was Ilana. She smiled at Jake kindly. "You humans are strong," she said. The next morning, her body was found behind the supply station, burned to ash. No one saw anything, no security alerts, no warnings. It was like something had melted her from inside out. Jake heard the whispers before the body was even cold. His wife did it. "She's a Zalari. They don't forgive touch." She never holds him, but she kills anyone who does. Jake didn't believe it at first. It sounded insane. How could Thyra have done it? She wasn't even there. She had no reason. But then it happened again. 2 weeks later, Jake helped a local merchant lift a heavy crate. The merchant, a burly Gorgon male, patted Jake on the back and laughed. "You humans are all right." That night, the merchant's transport exploded just as it left the outpost. Pieces of metal rained down like fire. Jake stood at the window of their home, staring into the dark, blinking in shock. Thyra walked in, calm and quiet as always. He turned to her slowly. "That merchant, he died tonight." She said nothing. She just walked past him, setting down a bowl of soup. Steam curled in the air. Her face showed no emotion. Her voice was soft, flat. "Eat before it gets cold." Jake stared at the soup, then at her. "Was it you?" he asked, trembling. Still no answer, but her eyes, those glowing, deadly eyes, watched him carefully, like she was scanning his soul. That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of it all. Why would she protect him so violently? Why never touch him, yet destroy others who did? The next day, no one in the outpost would look him in the eye. He walked through the supply lanes and doors shut as he passed. Children were pulled away by their mothers. One engineer whispered, "Don't even breathe near that human. His wife's a ghost reaper." Jake was alone now, even more than before. But Thyra stayed the same. She made tea, cleaned the tools, polished her old battle armor. Every movement she made was quiet and controlled. Like a shadow that had learned to pretend it was alive, Jake couldn't take it anymore. He finally stood in front of her as she sat sharpening a blade. "Why?" he asked. "Why do you live with me, cook for me, guard me, but never touch me? Never speak to me like a wife?" She looked up, eyes glowing brighter than ever. Her voice came like ice through glass. "Because if I do, you will break." Jake didn't understand. "Break? I'm not afraid of you." She stood slowly, towering over him now, the blade still in her hand. But she didn't threaten him. She placed the blade down gently and her voice lowered even more. "I was cursed in war," she said. "My body became poison. My rage became a weapon that lives in my blood. I don't love like others. I kill what tries to take what is mine." Jake's heart beat faster. "So, I'm yours?" She turned away, back to the stars. "You always were." The silence in Jake's house felt heavier now. Not like before. Not cold and distant, but thick, like the air was watching him. After Thyra's confession, Jake couldn't sleep. Her words echoed again and again in his mind. I don't love like others. I kill what tries to take what is mine. Since that night, strange things began to happen. It started small. When Jake reached out to shake a visitor's hand at the outpost, the lights in the room suddenly flickered. Every bulb popped like glass under pressure. The visitor pulled away quickly, frightened, and ran out without saying goodbye. Jake didn't speak of it. He didn't need to. People already feared him. And now, even the air around him seemed angry. One morning, he woke up and noticed that his toolkit was missing. He searched the entire house, found it in the hallway, each tool placed neatly on the floor, not scattered, arranged, almost like someone had been using them or warning him. The next day, a message arrived on his compad. A technician named Kira had been asking questions about him at the outpost bar. Laughing, flirting. That night, her quarters caught fire. The flame didn't spread, just her bed burned, without touching the walls. She survived, but she left the planet the next morning. Jake stood alone on the landing platform watching her ship rise. His hands were shaking. I didn't do anything, he whispered to himself. Behind him, he felt it again. That pressure in the air, like a storm about to break. He turned, but there was no one there. Only shadows. When he returned home, Thyra was sitting at the kitchen table. Her armor was polished, her sword leaned against the wall. She stirred a cup of hot tea slowly, like she had all the time in the universe. You feel it now? She said without looking up. Jake sat down across from her. Feel what? The presence, she replied. The part of me that watches, that hunts. Jake stared at her. You mean, it's alive? It follows me? Thyra's eyes were calm, but cold. It was created to guard the one I bond with. You are not only my husband, Jake. You are my claim, my vow. The force bound to me protects you. Jake stood. You've never even touched me. How can we be bonded? Her gaze locked with his. Touch is not required to make a soul promise. He stepped back. But why not warn me? Why let people die? Her hand tightened on the teacup. It cracked. I warned them, she said. With silence. With my eyes. They chose not to listen. Jake couldn't believe what he was hearing. He looked around the room, his home, once peaceful. Now it felt like a trap, a cage guarded by an invisible beast that wore his wife's face. He left the house that evening. He walked through the empty lanes of the outpost. No one spoke to him anymore. A group of traders crossed the road to avoid passing him. He stopped near the edge of the landing bay and stared at the twin moons in the sky. His voice broke the quiet. I don't want this. I never asked for this. A gentle breeze blew across his face, and then a whisper, very soft, like wind through dry leaves. But she asked for you. Jake spun around. No one. Just darkness. His breath quickened. He hurried back home. He found Thyra waiting outside. She stood in the shadows, eyes glowing like coals in the dark. He froze. Something spoke to me. She nodded slowly. The bond is waking. You are not just protected now. You are watched. Jake felt his knees go weak. I'm not safe anymore, am I? She walked toward him, stopped just before touching distance. You were never unsafe, she said. Not from others, only from me. Jake looked into her eyes, and for the first time he saw something different. Not coldness, not anger. Fear, not for herself, but for him. The most dangerous warrior in the galaxy feared hurting the only person she ever loved. Jake started counting the days since Thyra had spoken those words. You were never unsafe, only from me. Each day felt longer now, not because of fear, but because of something stranger. He wanted her to touch him, just once. He didn't know why it mattered so much now. Maybe because the outpost feared him. Maybe because people ran from him. Maybe because even machines glitched when he walked past. But mostly because she stayed close enough to see him hurt, but never close enough to hold him. He tried to act normal, fix broken comms, sharpen his tools, but every time he sat near Thyra, something heavy filled the room, like the space between them was alive, pushing him back. One afternoon, Jake sat on the edge of the table while Thyra oiled her blade. The sky outside was gray, storm clouds circling. Thunder rolled far away, soft like growling. He watched her hands, elegant, deadly, precise. "Why don't you sit with me?" he asked quietly. Thyra didn't look up. "I am already here." "No, I mean, beside me. Close." She paused. Her hand tightened around the cloth. Jake pressed on. "It's been months. You make my food. You protect me. You speak softly. You even warned me about yourself. But still, not even a touch?" Silence. Then softly she said, "Do you remember the healer?" Jake blinked. "Elena? The one who died?" Thyra nodded. "She touched your hand. Her soul screamed for hours before she burned." Jake felt a chill in his spine. "But you didn't even touch her." Thyra's eyes flicked to him, glowing brighter now. "I didn't need to." She stood and walked to the window. The sky was darker now. Rain began to fall, slow, silver drops that steamed as they hit the ground. Jake stood too, slowly, carefully. "I want to understand, Thyra. I'm not scared. I just want to feel human again." She turned to face him, then did something she had never done before. She removed her gloves. Her fingers were slender, smooth, glowing faintly with alien energy. She held them in the air, half a meter from his face, trembling. Jake didn't move. "If I touch you," she whispered, "and the curse takes you, I will destroy this planet in sorrow." Jake swallowed. "What if it doesn't?" Thyra stepped back, the moment gone. She whispered, "I cannot take that chance." Jake sat down, defeated. Later that night, Jake dreamt of her hands. They touched his skin, and instead of pain, he felt warmth. In the dream, they danced under alien stars, her fingers in his hair, her lips against his. He smiled in sleep. But the dream twisted. Her skin turned black. Her eyes burned red. She screamed as he fell apart in her arms. Fire, ash, screams. He woke up choking. Thyra stood over him, watching. Her hands were glowing and trembling. "You were cold," she said softly. "I tried to bring warmth." Jake sat up, eyes wide. "You touched me?" She nodded once. "I didn't feel anything," he said. Her voice broke. "I did." Jake looked into her eyes. They were different tonight. Not just glowing, but wet. Tears. He reached toward her slowly, his fingers inches from hers, but she stepped back again. "I feel everything," she whispered. "Even when I don't touch, even when I don't speak. My soul burns every time I leave you alone, but if I hold you, and you vanish." She couldn't finish. She turned away. Jake stared at his hand. So close. So empty. The rain didn't stop for 3 days. Jake stayed inside, watching the water run down the windows of their small home. Thyra barely spoke. She moved like a ghost, silent, smooth, always watching him from a distance. Jake couldn't stop thinking about her words. "If I hold you, and you vanish." He needed answers, not from her, but from someone who knew what she used to be. There was only one place on the planet that kept records of the old war, a ruined temple on the mountain slope, where an alien priest lived, one of the last survivors of the Battle of Blood Moons. Jake made the climb alone. The wind howled as he walked. Black stones cracked under his boots. Old statues watched him. From the fog, their faces broken and sad. The priest was waiting at the entrance. His eyes glowed green, his back hunched with age. "You are the human bonded to the cursed one," he said without greeting. Jake nodded. "I need to know the truth about her." The priest turned slowly. "Come. But the truth is not a gift. It is a scar." Inside the cold temple, the priest lit a fire. Strange symbols danced on the walls. Jake sat, heart pounding. The old man spoke. Thyra was once known as the Breaker of Chains, a warrior general, feared across the 12 sectors, not for her strength alone, but for her loyalty. Her soldiers would die for her, not because she asked, but because they loved her. Jake leaned in. What happened to her? The priest's eyes narrowed. She was betrayed. He pointed at a mural, old and cracked. It showed a battlefield and a woman kneeling with glowing hands over her chest. During the last war, Thyra was struck by an ancient weapon, a soulbinder. It did not kill her. It cursed her. Her touch became deadly. Her love turned violent. The more she cared, the more pain she caused. Jake's chest tightened. She tried to end her own life, the priest whispered, but the curse would not allow it. Instead, it grew stronger. She was banished by her people, left to wander. Jake looked into the fire, voice shaking. "Then why did she marry me?" The priest placed a hand on his shoulder. "Because you are the first one she wanted to protect without destroying." Jake's eyes watered. "Is there a cure?" he asked. The priest shook his head. "Not that we know. Only one bond in the galaxy has ever broken such a curse, and it was not with blood." Jake stood up, confused. "Then how?" The priest's answer was soft but powerful. Love without fear, and trust without walls. Jake returned home as the sun rose. His clothes were soaked, his boots heavy with mud. But his mind was clear now. He walked through the door. Thyra was there, sharpening her blade again. "I know what happened to you," he said gently. She froze. He stepped closer. "You weren't always like this. The world made you into this." Her voice was cold. "Do you pity me now?" Jake shook his head. "No, I see you." She looked up. Her eyes were tired, older than they should be. "You should leave me," she whispered. "It's safer." Jake took another step. "I didn't marry you for safety." She stood, her glow rising. "You don't understand. I do now." Jake's voice rose. "You think I'll break if you touch me. You think your love is a weapon, but maybe, just maybe, your love is the cure." Thyra stared at him. The sword in her hand trembled. The light around her flickered. And then, for the first time, she dropped the weapon. Thyra's sword hit the ground with a sharp metallic clink. Jake held his breath. The sound echoed through the room like a final warning. But no fire came, no sparks, no death, just silence, and her eyes. She looked at him not like a warrior, but like a woman standing on the edge of a cliff, too scared to fly, too tired to fall. Jake stepped forward. She didn't move. Slowly, gently, he raised his hand, not to touch her, but to show her he wasn't afraid. "I don't want your power," he said softly. "I want you." Her glowing hand stayed by her sides, trembling slightly. The blue light in her veins pulsed faster. "You push too close," she whispered. "The bond inside me is watching. It's not calm." Jake nodded. "Let it watch." His fingers hovered just inches from hers now. So close. Close enough to feel the strange heat from her skin. It wasn't warmth like fire. It was like ancient energy, heavy, alive. Thyra's breath caught. Her voice cracked. "If I hurt you, I'll never forgive myself." Jake smiled. "Then don't hurt me. Trust me." She stared at his hand. Then suddenly she stepped back. The light in her skin dimmed. She turned away fast like the moment had burned her. Jake sighed. You keep saving me from others, but you keep running from me. She faced the wall, her back tense. I am not afraid of them. I am afraid of what I become around you. Jake's voice lowered. And I'm afraid of never knowing what we could be. The next day, he didn't speak to her. Not in anger, but to give her space. He worked alone in the field behind their home, fixing a broken power line. The sky was clear. The air felt normal. For once. No strange pressure. No flickering lights. Just peace. He thought she was inside. Until he heard something? A sound? Footsteps behind him fast, heavy, not hers. Jake turned. 3 armed men. Off-worlders. Raiders. Rough clothes. Broken helmets. No identification. One grabbed Jake by the shirt. Where's your alien freak wife, human? Jake didn't answer. Another pulled a blaster. People say she's cursed. Let's see what happens if we break her toy. The man, holding Jake, pulled back a fist and then lightning. Blue light exploded in the air. The man's body flew backward, hitting a tree so hard it snapped. Thyra stood at the edge of the field. Her hair floated like it was underwater. Her body glowed, like a sun caught in storm clouds. She didn't shout. She didn't blink. She unleashed. One raider tried to run. The ground split under his feet. His bones turned black. His scream lasted half a second before silence took him. The last one dropped to his knees. Please. I didn't mean to. He vanished, turned to smoke. Jake stood frozen, his shirt still half ripped, his hands trembling. Thyra walked to him slowly. Her light faded with every step. She stopped only a foot away. Jake looked up at her, breathing hard. You said you were afraid of becoming a monster around me. She lowered her eyes. I was right. Jake shook his head. No, you're not a monster. You didn't start that fight, you ended it for me. Thyra looked at her glowing hands. I kill so easily. Jake stepped forward. This time he didn't stop. He placed his hand softly on her arm. She gasped. The glow surged but didn't burn. His hand stayed. He didn't melt. He didn't scream. Her eyes widened. How? Jake smiled gently. Maybe the curse isn't as strong as your love. Tears filled her eyes, and for the first time her hands rose and didn't pull away. She touched him back. That night, Thyra didn't sleep in the other room. She sat beside Jake in silence as the moonlight touched the floor. No words, just the soft rhythm of 2 breaths in one space. For the first time her hand stayed in his. No fire, no burning, just warmth. But peace never lasts long on a planet like Outpost 19. The next day, while Jake was repairing a coolant pipe, near the outer dome, alarms screamed across the sky. Not a drill, not a test, an attack. Raiders, 10 times more than before. Armed, armored, organized. They came not for supplies, they came for her. The curse of the Zellery had become a legend among outlaws. Everyone wanted the power. Some wanted to break it. Others wanted to own it. Thyra stood in the doorway of their small home, her blade in hand, her eyes glowing like twin stars. Jake grabbed a tool and turned to run back inside, but something hit him from behind. Hard. He hit the ground, head spinning, blood dripping from his lip. 3 raiders surrounded him. One kicked him hard in the ribs. He's the key. One growled. She loves him. Let's see if she fights when he's gone. From across the field, Thyra screamed, a sound no one had ever heard from her before. Not rage, fear. She rushed, forward like a comet. But too late. One of the raiders stabbed Jake through the side. The blade sank deep, and Jake gasped, blood bubbling from his mouth. Thyra dropped her sword. She fell to her knees beside him, glowing hands shaking, reaching. For his face. No, she whispered. Stay. Stay with me. Jake's vision blurred. You touched me before. I'm still here. Her tears fell like burning stars on his skin. This time, I have to touch you, all of me, not just my hand, my heart, my soul. Her hands pressed against his chest. The curse flared. Light poured out of her body like a storm unleashed. Her voice echoed in the air, speaking words older than time. The raiders ran, but the ground swallowed them. The sky went black. Lightning cracked the sky in silence. And then, Jake opened his eyes. No pain, no blood, just her face, glowing, alive, crying, smiling. You broke the rule, he said weakly. She nodded. For you, I would break the galaxy. When the storm cleared, the outpost was in ruins, but the home stood untouched. Jake lay in their bed, bandaged but alive. Thyra sat at his side, never leaving him for a second. You used the full power, he said. She nodded. The curse fought me, but you didn't. He reached for her cheek. Does it still live in you? She smiled softly. It sleeps now, not gone, but quiet. Jake chuckled. Maybe it got tired of being angry. She looked at him with soft eyes. Or maybe it finally understood love. And with no fear, no hesitation, she kissed him. Her lips were warm. Her hands were gentle. And nothing broke. The outpost never fully recovered. Many buildings were gone. Communication towers shattered. Some settlers packed up and left, scared of what they saw, of the storm, the power, the woman who glowed like a god and screamed the sky apart for a wounded human. But Jake stayed, and so did Thyra. Word spread across the outer colonies. They called her the Flame Bride, the cursed warrior who loved one man so much even her deadly magic bent to protect him. But those were just stories. Only Jake knew the truth. Weeks passed. Jake healed slowly. Thyra never left his side. Every day she changed. Less like a soldier, more like a person. She laughed just a little. She cooked meals with real flavor now. She asked questions about Earth, about oceans, about dogs, about music. One quiet night, she lit a small fire outside. Their home. No magic, just wood and spark. Jake sat beside her, watching the flames dance in the breeze. Thyra looked at the sky. I never thought I would live long enough to love someone. Jake smiled. You did more than that. You fought the curse for me. She looked at him. No, I fought it for us. I was never afraid of dying. I was afraid of holding you and losing myself. Jake reached for her hand and held it tight. You didn't lose yourself, he said. You found something bigger. She tilted her head. What's that? Jake leaned closer. A reason to live. That night she lay beside him. Not across the room, not watching from a distance, but close. Her body warm against his. Her arm across his chest. Her breath steady. And finally, he whispered the words she had never heard from him before. I love you, Thyra. She didn't reply right away. But then she lifted her head, touched his face gently, and said, Then I am finally free. The next morning, something strange happened. The ground near their home bloomed with bright alien flowers. They hadn't grown there before. In fact, nothing ever grew near her. Her curse had once killed grass just by her presence. But now, the land was waking. Thyra walked barefoot across the field, her glow softer now, no longer violent. The curse inside her wasn't gone, but it had changed. It had accepted Jake, and in doing so, it accepted peace. Months passed. People returned to the outpost. They brought children, and no one feared the woman with glowing hands anymore. Instead, they nodded respectfully when she walked by. Some whispered, She's not just his wife, she's his protector, his shield. Others smiled and said, No, he's hers, her balance, her anchor. and both were right. One evening Jake stood outside as the sun dipped below the hills. He felt arms wrap around him from behind. Thyra. She rested her head on his back. Softly, she said, "You once asked why I never touched you." Jake smiled. "I remember." She turned him around and looked into his eyes. "I didn't trust myself then, but now." She placed both hands on his face. "Now, I trust us." And in the orange light of the setting sun, she kissed him again. No curse, no fear, only love, only freedom, only her first and final embrace.